So I'll just wait a few minutes for people to get into the chat room. Hi, everybody. We're doing our standard wait for at least 20 to 25 people to enter the chat room. Please go ahead and put your shout outs in the chat box, and I'll be calling those out in a few minutes. I am just drawing some lines on the back of some squares to make some half square triangles. We're at 19. Since we don't have a subject today, we get one more. I'll go ahead and start. And there we go. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Today, we don't really have a topic. I've been really busy the past week. I just came back from a quilting retreat, and I have a lecture tomorrow, actually 2 lectures tomorrow, so I've been busy packing for those. So I didn't come up with a topic. I didn't get any suggestions, or maybe I didn't see any suggestions. But if you ever have suggestions for these chats, please go ahead and list them under any other video and just let me know it's a chat option, or go ahead and list it under this video whenever it goes live. And also do suggestions in my TeaQuilts Facebook group as well. So I'll go ahead and start with the shout outs that I have. I don't have a lot of them yet, but I have Catherine Hill from South Carolina, Darlene Farmer from Northern Virginia, Sharon Martin, and she says, hi all, I made it. Margaret West from Cleveland, home of the Cabbage Patch Doll. Hi T, I've been wanting to know if anyone has found any cheaper free motion notions. Has anyone shopped Wish? That's a question from HC. Hi Bonita, she's in the house tonight. She says, hi T. All of a sudden, the Quilting Marine is in my YouTube feed. Who would have thought? Yeah, Marilyn Price. Thomas, hello from Palmdale, California. Sharon Stewart. Hello, y'all. Greetings from Richland Spring, Texas. Kaylin from Stitched Art Studio from Ottawa, Canada. Hi, Kaylin. Kathy Hopkins. Hi, everyone from Ontario. Phyllis Gardner from Wilmington, North Carolina. Hi, Phyllis. And Sharon says she's from Michigan. Linda Knowles not finally found the chat box. Yay, Linda. And so we'll go ahead and get started. I've been getting just a few viewer questions sometimes, and I answer them sometimes in the box under my video. And then other times I get email questions, and I don't really have a lot this time. I just kind of put this topic out here today because I didn't have any other subjects, so I don't have a backlog of questions right now. But I do have a couple of them that I wanted to address. I have Phyllis Maysmith from, I don't know if that's Ligonier, Pennsylvania. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. But welcome to the chat, Tracy. So one of the questions that I had was, I did a video on the Trirex tool, and I talked about various different ways that you could use that tool, and I mentioned that you can make half rectangles, and I think that I actually showed the half rectangles because it was part of the video, but apparently someone needs it broken down a little further for them. So I'm not going to do a full display and have a lot of examples because I just didn't have time to do that today. So what I did do was I just cut 2 pieces of fabric. So I have my strips. So whatever size you want your half rectangles to finish, you add a 1/2 inch to that strip set. So I want my half rectangles on this example to finish at 4 inches. So I cut 2 pieces of fabric that was 4.5 inches wide. The key to remembering with the rectangle ruler is when you cut, most times we like to put right sides together. So we would normally put our right sides together. If you do that, you will not end up with the correct shape if you're trying to sew different pieces back together. And I'll show you that in a minute once I do the correct way to demo this. So when you're cutting with the rectangle part of the Tri-Rex tool, and let me show it to you again. And I need a piece of white paper. Hold on. That paper was going to have writing on the back. Most of my papers do. Okay, so here's one that has very little text on it. So I'll just hold this ruler up on this white paper and hopefully you can see it. But this is the Rex part of the Tri-Rex tool. And a lot of people only use this when we're doing that 3-part triangle. And so I will link the video that I'm talking about when I get through with this video to have it go live. So when I'm using this tool, I want to make sure that both sides are right sides up. And so then I'll go ahead and stack my strip sets. And I can stack, if I'm using my 60mm blade, I might can stack 6 to 8 of these at a time so that I'm reducing the time that it takes to cut. And then you're actually going to place your 4.5 inch edge on the bottom of the strip set. And it's not going to hold up right because I just don't have my design wall stuff here for you today. And then you would cut to square off your straight edge, and then you're also going to cut across through the diagonal. One of the other things that isn't quite as noticeable on these tools is that if you look at this corner right here, there's a little shaving there for you to trim off that little nick. And you're only trimming the little nick, and so some people think that that's not important to trim off, but it's very important because you need to have that little nick to line the pieces up. So here I have cut those 2 pieces, and I have the little nicks off the corners, and I'm sure that that isn't showing up very well on the camera, but they are there. Just right here on this little corner, I have a piece missing. And the reason why you want to do that, because when you place these 2 pieces right sides together to sew, that little nick will be right on the bottom edge of the half square triangle, and it would happen on both ends. One would be on one side and the other one would be on the opposite side. So if you can see here where that little nick is laying right here along the edge of the rectangle. And as I said, it also does it on both sides of the rectangle. From there, you're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam. And when I do any half square triangles and rectangles, I just like to press my seams open. And then here you have your finished half square rectangle. So that was a question that I got under the Tri-Rex tool video within the past week. So I thought that I would just go ahead and do a quick show of that. If we need a full video on that, I can do that as well. So if that's not sufficient, it can be requested as well. So this is the same thing that I just sewn. I just had it as a sewn piece to show you that the seam was there with 1/4 inch. Now, what if you cut these pieces and they are right sides together? Because it looks very normal to put your 2 pieces right sides together and then cut them out, which is what I have done here. But if you sew a 1/4 inch and open this up, you're going to have a shape that's like a kite. They will not line up to make a shape. And I did sew one of these wrong just so I can show you what it looks like. Press the seam open. And there you go with the kite. Now, if a kite is what you're looking for, and this is a very great tip for how to get a kite. But if this is not what your end result is, you need to remember to put both sides of your fabric either right side up or right side down, depending on which side you want your fabric piece, your lighter dark piece to be on. So let me just go through the comment section. That was one question that I had. I got my little units up in front of my laptop, so I will be reaching up and back a little bit. We got Kathy Hopkins from Ontario. I think I called those out. I'm sorry. Let's see. Anita says, I love your collection of t-shirts. Where do you find them? Everywhere. I used to have a company and it just closed online. It did a lot of t-shirts. And this shirt is actually a Paducah quilt show, quilt show t-shirt. When I went one year, I just purchased a shirt. And I do plan to start making my own shirts in the future. We shall see. Vicki Host says, welcome from Paducah. Hello from Paducah. Hi, and I happen to have my shirt on. We were just talking about that. And she says, hope to see you at the quilt show. Love the t-shirt. Whenever I go to Paducah, I always go on the Friday. So if you see me in Paducah, anyone see me in Paducah, please stop. I'm taking photos with anybody that stops to say hello, though. Remember that. Hi, Debbie. How are you? Debbie's from St. Louis area. Rebecca Oliver from Southern Maine. And Sharon saying half square rectangle, very cool. I'm going to use those somewhere. I really like that look. The Quilting Marine is here. Hey, everybody. HC says she's going to use those as well. Diane, 57 from Arlington. Okay, so if you got any questions, any of my new quilters, please go ahead and leave them in the chat box. I see I'm getting more things coming in. I'm always on a delay. So I'm going to go ahead and answer the next viewer question that I had. I also have a demo for it. I was asked, what is the difference between the AccuQuilt Go and the AccuQuilt Studio system? The AccuQuilt Go system, I don't know about the electronic one because I never had that one, but the regular Go, it will take up to an 8-inch die. The AccuQuilt Studio can take up to, I think it's 14 or 15-inch die. The other difference between the two is that this AccuQuilt Studio will cut 6 pieces of fabric at a time, whereas the Studio dies will cut 10 pieces at a time. Now, there is a way for you to cut AccuQuilt Go dies on your Studio. So I have a Go die here, and I want to show you the size because I want to show you the thickness. Just want to put this piece down for a minute. And then I want to get a Studio die. And I want to show you the difference in the thickness here. So that's a big deal. And then the blade that's inside of here is a lot thicker because it's got a lot more wider area to have that blade. So that's how you can cut more layers. Now, there is a way for you to use your Go dies on your Studio. The killer part of it is, though, is that you're still only limited to cutting those 6 pieces of fabric. You can't cut 10 pieces of fabric just because you're on the Studio system. You will have to purchase an adapter. I have the 10 by 12 adapter here, but they also have one that will fit your strip dies as well. So you can also cut those. You just place this under any die that's smaller than this board, and then you can go ahead and send this through on your Studio. I had the Go system for a long time, and I sold that system and bought the studio. The reason why I did that was because I could cut more pieces of fabric at a time if I purchased the studio dies that would allow me to do that. In addition, the studio handle was a lot easier to turn than, say, if you were comparing it with the Go cutting system. Now they've come out with the electronic model, so that kind of eliminates that particular thing. The only thing that I wish they would do more is make more dies for the studio system. They tend to make a lot of their newer dies for their Go systems and haven't made a lot of things for the studio line. So I'm still purchasing Go dies here and there, but I'm trying not to do it as often because I'm hoping that eventually they will get those onto the studio system because I prefer to cut more pieces at a time. And because it also cuts wider, I can get longer dies that I can cut. Like instead of cutting, I remember when the tumbler first came out, the 7-inch tumbler, we only had one on a square because we were limited in what we could cut. Whereas if you bought that same tumbler die on the studio system, you might could cut 5 tumblers at a time. So that's part of the difference in the two as well. So I'm going back to questions and shout outs. Have Patty Spencer from Northern California. Hi, Patty, welcome. Have Tricia from South Carolina. She wants to know how you make quarter square triangles. And I'm going back to the top, and I'm going to come back to your question because there was one up above that I went past. So HC's question is, I've been wanting to know if anyone has found any cheaper free motion notions. So she's asking if you online, if you have any place to get cheaper free motion notions. She was saying, has anyone shopped at Wish? So please share those in the chat box, and or if it goes live, when this video go live, to go ahead and add it into the comment field. So have I been getting notions anywhere cheaper? Not necessarily, just sometimes you can get sewing notions cheaper just by going through Amazon. I know I have purchased long arm variegated thread for very cheap from AliExpress. But other than that, I don't know of any place that's any cheaper, like a substantial amount. What I find is if I'm only needing a notion or two and it's not at my local quilt shop, I find if I order it on Amazon with having the Amazon Prime, not having to pay shipping and not having to pay tax, and then it's always $1 or $2 cheaper. So that's the route I go when I just absolutely have to get something that's not at my local quilt shop. So now I'm going back down, and we were asked about the quarter square triangles. And I don't really have anything that I can demo that with. I'm actually in the process of making some half square triangles. But let me just get a sample here to see if I can mock cut a square. It's not going to be correct, but I'll do the best I can for a demo that's impromptu. So I'm trying to make a 4.5-inch square. Of course, I didn't use any rulers. I don't have the light on my sewing machine, but I'll cut it on. I'm going to tilt this down just a little so you can see. So basically, when you start to make quarter square triangles, you can do it one or two ways. You can start where you take a square. Can't see that. Let me put it on the board. You can start where you take a square or two squares, and you're going to cut both ways, and then you'll end up with 2 quarter square triangles. And then the thing about that is that you're dealing with the bias edges instead of dealing with straight up grain. And so I do want to put these back right sides together. I'm sorry. That was from the previous demo. So if I put these right sides together, I could just cut corner to corner and then replace my pieces on top and bottom and sew those back together. I'll end up with 2 1/4 square triangles. What I'm going to do is go ahead and just draw a line from corner to corner. Remember, these are not square because I did not cut them with a rotary cutter. So one of the options for making half square triangles, hoping you can see this line. I got this light right over my machine. So I've just drawn a line. And what I will do is I will sew on both sides of that drawn line. And when I'm sewing, I always have something next to my sewing machine that I use for chain piecing. Just eliminates me wasting thread doing the thread breaks. And then I also get a future half square triangle, or I can piece something on another project. So now that I've sewn on both sides of that drawn line, I'm just going to cut down the middle. And you could even make these scrappy if you use 2 different half square triangles. They could also be scrappy. I wouldn't put this back with the same one. I would just pair it up with something different. Just for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to press this with my finger because I don't have my stuff unpacked from retreat. So I don't have my wood and iron here. So I've just pressed those seams to the black fabric on both of those. And then what you want to do is butt these up with the seams nesting into each other. And then we're actually going to sew 2 more half square triangles. But this time we're going to mark corner to corner going across the seam. So I need to draw another line. And again, my stuff isn't square here because I did not cut it with a rotary cutter, but I can still use these in a scrap project because all I have to do is just square them up to a particular size I need. So now I've just drawn a line, and I'm again going to sew on both sides of that drawn line. My middle seams are matching. Find another piece of scrap to sew on. And I'm actually using these in a project, so I'm just prepping them as I'm working on other projects. And these are all the pieces that I cut off when I was making a bias bind. When I connect my binding, I use that bias seam. So those are the extra pieces that are left over. So I just keep those and chain piece them. And again, now that I've cut those apart, as I was saying, you start with 2 squares and you'll end up with 2 1/4 square triangles. They're exactly the same. If I wanted this to be scrappy and I had a different set of half square triangles that I had, I could have put those together and then these could have been both scrappy. So now I'm going back down. I see I've got quite a few questions. I just have to find where I'm going. My screen automatically scrolls down. It doesn't stop. And Patty Spencer is looking for a source for 100% wool fabric. I don't tend to buy it as often. Only time I get it is when I'm at quilt shows. And I haven't done anything with the wool that I have purchased, so I'm not doing that right now. But I do know a lot of people, they make their own wool. They'll go to reselling stores and they will purchase wool clothing. And then they use their washing machines with very hot water and detergent, and it agitates that. So you might want to Google that as an option as well. If anyone has any places that she can purchase wool, please let me know and I'll read it off. Hi, Dora. She's from California. Welcome back. And Sharon Martin is saying to go cut 6 layers. Love my go. I have the electric AccuQuilt, and it takes all but studio dyes and no cranking. Yes, and it still is limited to the 6 layers, I'm assuming, Diane. I do not have the electric go, so I'm not the expert at that. And the Quilting Marines question is, can you die cut the pieces for the New York Beauty? No, I don't think they have the dies, or I haven't seen the dies for that. And the other thing is the New York Beauty, the spikes part of the New York Beauty, every one that I have seen thus far has been paper piece. So I will say no at this time. They may make some changes to that. Sharon is saying if she was to buy it again, she would purchase a studio. Those suits my needs perfectly though. And HC is saying to the Quilted Marine that she saw a tutorial about the New York Beauty. He was talking about that last week, so I think he's very hooked on the New York Beauty. And Darlene Former saying that she would love to try a small New York Beauty. I actually have a New York Beauty project in progress. So maybe we could do that as maybe next Wednesday, if you like. I can sew one of the blocks for that. I have to plan that, so I can't just do it today. But if you're interested in that, let me know in the chat box, and I will start working on that. Patty Spencer is saying go 49ers because of the fabrics that I had. We got Nina Hooper from Garland, Texas. How are you? Welcome to TeaQuilts chat. The Quilting Marine is asking, can he order the paper pieces? And I know he's talking more to HC. There is a book that's actually called The New York Beauty, and I want to say it's by Bethany Richards, but I could be making that up. But it's actually a book. It's kind of brown in color, and her color choices are more muted, more towards the dark browns, reds. I want to say those kind of colors, but in that book is it's actually a booklet that you're actually pulling the pieces out. Everything has already been printed for you. You just start sewing. And I'm sure you can find some probably free on the internet as well. Bonita says, I use friction pans, but I heard it will reappear if the temperature is too cold. Have you experienced that? I am not a fan of the friction pans when they came out. I have never purchased one because I just don't want to be bothered with that. With me traveling, my quilts can be in extreme cold to extreme heat while I'm in the car driving. So I just don't want to have that hassle when I get to a lecture or a workshop and my quilts are not looking the way I want them to look. So I am not a fan of the friction pan. A lot of people do use them. They say that they work very well. Most people use them. The people that I know that use them for long arm quilting, but I would not want that in my particular quilts just because of what I do with quilts. If I'm having it in my home, then it's probably going to be okay. But my quilts do a lot of traveling. Got Cindy Gerke, hello from Wisconsin. And HC just bought one today. I'm assuming she's talking about the friction pen. And Trisha saying, thanks so much. Much better than cutting all those triangles and sewing them together. Great impromptu. You're welcome, Trisha. It's my pleasure. What kind of machine is that? That's from the Quilting Marine. I don't know if you're talking about the one I was sewing on. This is an older style baby lock. Both of my machines are actually old style baby locks here. This is the baby lock Elissimo. It's also an embroidery machine. It has a unit that I can put on it to embroider. And then this machine over here is the baby lock Elissimo, but it's the very first one that came out. They later on came out with the gold. Got Brenda Newsom. Hi, Brenda. Welcome. Got Diane Ricks from Kansas City. Hi, Diane. Silver, Silverita. Silverita James. I hope I'm saying your name right. Hello, welcome. Trisha says she did a New York Beauty and paper piece that worked well. I did just a wall hanging large enough for me. I like your yellow brick road quilt. Thank you, Silverita. A lot of people have asked what pattern that is, and you already know what it is, so that is awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, Wanda. Okay, and they're saying that they would like to see me piece a New York Beauty block. So I have the book and it's all torn up because it's like a workbook instead of an actual book. She does have instructions in front telling you what to do, but basically it's a workbook. So I will get out my project and I'll cut pieces for one New York Beauty, and I will do that next week. Darlene Former says in one of these sessions, please talk about judging quilts, hand and machine quilts. I am not a judge. I have had quilts in juried shows. I can just give you some basic techniques about what to talk about. I do have a friend that's coming to our quilt guild, but she won't be coming until I think she comes in March. So maybe what I'll do, who is asking this question? My screen keeps moving. That's Darlene. So Darlene, maybe what I'll do is we have our meetings the third Thursdays of the month. So maybe the last week of March, maybe I can do whatever she talks about and I can do like a recap on that because I know what happened for my quilt and I've only entered in a couple of jury shows, but I would rather have someone that is a judge. She's also a long armor instructor, so she travels to the big long arm quilting meetings and she talks to that. So once she does her presentation at our guild, I'll do one here with some of the recaps of what she said because I am not an expert as a judge. So let me write that down because I can't remember anything if I don't write it down. And I'm also writing down New York Beauty next week. Okay. We got Diane 57 says any go or go big or even go baby dies work with the electric quilt big. Yes, and that's true. The larger size you can use the same dies, but when they made the electric go, they made jumbo dies, and so you can't put your go will not take all of the dies. Like for those big blocks, that will not fit inside of your go. Darlene's saying that that would be great. A few of us could try the beauty on a small scale. The Quilting Marine is saying, oh, wow, I'll look for it. Thank you. You're welcome. And now he's asking about what is a friction pin. Uh, I, I think I kind of answered that question, but basically it's a pin and you can get them in various colors from what I hear from people that use them. But you can mark on fabric for your lines for quilting or sewing, and then you use the heat of your iron to erase the mark. And the issue is that if the quilt gets cold at a certain degree, which is very cold, you would almost have to like freeze your quilt. Like being out in the weather, it has to be at freezing mark. Then the lines will sometimes come back. And so that's why I don't use the pen because of me traveling. That's the only reason that I don't use. Darlene says she used chalk for everything. I do. I use chalk as well, or I'll use the disappearing pen or the purple pen, which will erase on its own. And I guess I must have missed the question about the Baltimore Ablum. Darlene is asking any thoughts about the Baltimore Ablum. For those that don't know what a Baltimore Ablum is, it's a hand applique sampler style quilt. Every block is different. Sometimes they have themes to them, like they might be related to a particular area. Sometimes they're just fancy blocks that the user made. You can also Google that. It will come up with a lot of different options on that as well. Most of the ones that I have seen have some kind of larger medallion center as well. Like if your blocks are 12 inches, maybe your center is 24 inches. So it just depends. A lot of variety. Is there a good book that discusses incorporating shadowing in a quilt? I don't know that there is a book about just shadowing, and I don't know if you're just talking about. I'm not sure exactly what it is that you're trying to shadow. Like if you're just trying to have a square and then have like part of the L as a shadow. I'm not sure what it is that you're asking, but I don't know about a book that's just on shadowing. Or you're talking about where you do the undercolor, like when you do, I forgot what they call it, where you have a piece of white thin fabric and then you put color underneath and then you do applique and you kind of see the color where you're densely. That's what you're asking for me to. Cindy is saying that yes, the friction pans do come back in cold. Also on dark fabrics, they leave a trace ghost line. I love them, but use them on the back of fabric, never on the front. I use chalk to draw quilting lines. HC is reminding everybody to thumbs up the video. Debbie Huey says free New York Beauty blocks at Lenzula, Lenzula. Google it. Won't let me put address. No, you can't put an actual web address inside of the chat box. And even if you put it in the comment field on the YouTube videos, they go into spam or some place where I have to go and release the spam comments. And I don't go there very often because I just have a lot to do. So you can post links, but I have to go and find them and then I have to read through all of them. And I just don't have a whole lot of time when I get online because I'm trying to answer questions first. That's my main priority. So What do you think about shipping quilt tops out to be quilted? You know, a lot of people do that. I hear a lot of people send them out to Missouri Star, and I have a lot of longworm quilters that some of their customers receive their quilts through postage. Um, I have shipped quilts that I have made to family members. So, you know, I always add on some insurance. You're never going to get the amount of insurance that your quilt or quilt top is worth. But I have never had any problem with them yet. But I have heard of other more famous quilters having issues with their items coming up missing. But I would say if that's the only choice you have for longworm quilting, or if you can't afford the quilting in your area and you got someone that will do it for cheaper for shipping and the quilting, then go for it. I don't have a problem with it. I have never done it though. And we have other people saying they use chalk for marking fabrics as well. Bonita's saying like when the shade on a leaf. So she's talking about when you're shading a leaf. If I don't know if you're now you need to answer, are you talking about a piece pattern or an applique pattern? And I'm always late getting responses, so you all have to forgive me. And she's saying similar to quilting with thread. Similar to quilting with thread. If I was quilting with thread and I was trying to shade a leaf, I would just change to a different um, color of thread to do that. One other way that you could do that if it's an applique is you can outline the, the part of the part or the side that you want the sun to shadow. Then you could just make a thinner applique piece and slide it under. You don't have to do the whole leaf as an applique, just maybe part of it. So that will help when you get to the quilting. You don't need as much thread to make that shading. You're welcome, Silver. Okay, so Silverita. I like your name. I just have to think about it before I pronounce it. You're more than welcome. Hi, Diane. And she's asking me, do you have a favorite thread you like more than another? And I don't know if you're talking about piecing thread, machine thread. I think I talked about that. I actually did a video on the thread I use, but I use what I do like is when I'm piecing, and I'm not going to take it off today because I've done it so many times. I'm just making sure that I get the brand for you. Is that I buy my piecing thread by the spool. That way, it's cheaper when you buy larger cones of thread. And I buy Superior's Masterpiece thread by the spool. That was a thread that was designed or brought into the market by Alex Anderson. So that's actually my favorite. I do use R-fill in my bobbins because my bobbins are small, so I can get more thread on the bobbins. But I think my masterpiece might be the same weight as my R-fill, so I'm going to try it next time I wind bobbins to see if it's any different. But if you have a different question, Diane, please let me know if I didn't address it. And Bonita is talking about painting with thread. So if you're just doing more shading, then you're just going to put that darker color of thread onto the part that you want the shading on. Debbie Huey say try crayon or color pencil for shading. That's a great idea. And Debbie has done some projects with our guild. She's very good with that. She's done crayon and thread painting mixed. Looks very nice. And now Diane is now asking about quilting thread. The thread that I use most for my long arm quilting is permacore. And I know that some of the newer quilters don't use it because they use the glide thread. But my gamma loves the permacore. It is a little bit more linty than glide. Glide is actually a polyester thread, and permacore is a mesmerized like cotton, where it's really polyester, but it's covered. So, but it's still considered cotton thread, but I think it's covered a little bit in poly, but it's very linty. So what I actually put in my bobbin is Bottom Line by Superior. And Debbie Huey is on here. She has a Tin Lizzy long arm machine. Debbie, can you share what thread you use for quilting? Diane said, what kind of thread do you use in your bobbin when quilting? And I just answered that. I use the Superior Bottom Line thread. And it actually, even though my permacore and my Bottom Line are two different weights, they work very well. But I use the Bottom Line because it's a polyester thread, but I can get a lot more of it on the bobbin. So therefore, I'm not changing out the bobbins as often. Francesca wants to know, what is my favorite scrap quilt pattern? And I That's very difficult for me because I like just about anything scrappy. But if I had to pick something, then I would say just string and quilting in general. And that's because I can do so many different things with that, whereas I'm not stuck using a pattern. If I wanted to pick a pattern just off the top of my head that's free online, that's very easy to do. You can make a lot of charity quilts and family quilts with. I would tell you to go to Fat Quarter Shop and download the Jelly Roll Jam 2 as in the numeral number 2. That's a very quick quilt to make with leftover 2.5-inch strips. And I even will piece pieces together to make up the one piece. And June Hanson, thanks for coming on today and sharing with us. She says, I just have my granddaughter help me with my go. Is there an easy way to put satin binding on? I got it, but doing the corners were hard. I don't think I've ever put satin binding on a quilt. I would think that it will probably just move a little bit. So I think you're probably going to have to pin or maybe use some of the clips that we use in quilt making. Again, I don't have my supplies unpacked, so I don't have it here. But those um, quilters clips, the little red clips that I use, I think I would try to use those to keep some of the material from moving as much. And then I probably would do pinning where I miter my corners to make sure that it doesn't move. Darlene is saying thanks. You're more than welcome. Debbie Huey says that she likes signature and bottom line. And I will say that I did get a few spools of signature thread with my gamma, and I have used those. And I did not have to make any adjustments between that and the permacore. And the signature thread that I'm talking about is not signature thread for the sergers, but signature thread that's quilting thread. They now have a quilting side. Trisha says she likes using permacore. My machine likes it too. It looks like cotton. I also use So Fine and Glide and Magna bobbins. And I've only had one pre-wound bobbin. I'm just cheap. And so I can go ahead and wind off my bobbins. I got a lot of extra bobbins I got online somewhere for a reasonable rate. So I try to keep 2 bobbins of every color or keep 2 bobbins for the color. As I'm quilting my quilt, I'm winding another bobbin at the same time. That's one of the features on the Gamma. And I know that the newer model 10 Lizzie also has it as well. And maybe some other brand machines probably have it too. So I always try to keep 2 bobbins per spool of thread. Cindy says, T, I'm going to my first quilt guild retreat. Woohoo! They are so much fun. And it's just great. The main goal for me on quilt retreat is just to get away from life, because if people know that you're at the retreat, they don't tend to bother you as much as if you're sewing at home. So have fun. Even if you just socialize and have a good time, it's still your time. That's for yourself. So you're going to enjoy it. And she says, I watched your video on what to pack and bring to retreats. Thanks. Looking forward to lots of fun and like minded friends having a good time. And don't forget that I also put a link in the description box for the actual sheet for you to download if you're interested in the checklist. And you can always, that is my list, what I use. And if you find something that you like to take to retreat, you can just easily add it onto the sheet and use it as well. And Darlene is asking, where do you find this permacore? And you can do a Google search on it as well. I used to buy mine locally from the Jackman store. Just in thinking of Jackman's, two things. I just purchased from them. But then I also had one of the loan warmers that was selling it. She was a wholesale supplier. So that's how I got mine here in the St. Louis area. Jackman's, also, I had a comment from a viewer. I can't remember which one of you said that she called Jackman's when I did that fabric haul, and she talked to someone on the phone, and they actually got the fabrics that I had in the haul that she wanted, and they shipped it to her. So if you see anything in that haul and you're interested in it, give them a phone call. She said they were very willing to do that. Charisse says, hi, sorry I'm late to the conversation from Willingsboro, New Jersey. Welcome. If you have a question, go ahead and put it into the box. We don't have too many more minutes. I'm going through them as fast as I can. Try use interface on the back of the satin. I think, well, yeah, she could try interfacing on the back if she hasn't already got it all on the quilt. I guess she could do that. That's for the lady that's sewing with satin. And Trisha's saying that she got her permacore at Red Rock Threads. And I have purchased some other threads from them in the past. They're a very good site to order from. The Quilting Marine has already been over to Linzula's site. He's saying, thanks, Debbie. New York Beauty, here I come. Telling him that she wants to see him make that New York Beauty. He has a channel here on YouTube. If for those that don't know, it's called the Quilting Marine. So maybe he'll do some videos on it when he gets started. For those that's just coming next week, I'm actually going to be sewing one of my New York Beauty blocks. So come back and watch with me next week. Darlene say, I don't belong to a guild, but would like to experience a retreat. I don't know about your area, but we have two quilt shops in our area that has retreats like 2 or 3 times a year. So check with your local quilt shops and see if they have anything set up like that. You just never know. June says, do you use 40 or 50 weight if you use bottom line? And where do you get it? I actually, whatever weight permacore is, I don't have that thread in front of me right now. I'm sorry. I think that was June. Sorry, June. I can't answer the weight on the permacore. If somebody else know, can you please let us know? It's just in another room. But it doesn't matter with the weight. What it is you have to make sure that your tensions are adjusted. So I always quilt on a practice sandwich before I start quilting. But if you're using the same thread continuously and you're using basically the same batting and you're basically sewing a regular cotton and backing and top together, you have the same variables going from one quilt to the next. And so therefore, if I'm using the same top thread and the same bottom thread, and once I get my tension adjusted, I don't have to worry about that again. I can just go to the next quilt top. I'm just changing thread color. That's the beauty of sticking with a particular brand or line of thread. Where do I get it from? I actually purchase it when I go to Longhorn Machine quilting shows. And the reason why is because at those shows, they normally have show specials because they know that most of the people attending those shows are Longhorn quilters or people that quilt their own quilts. So you don't have to have a Longhorn machine to use these threads. It's just that they are the bigger spools of thread. And even bottom line comes in the size, the smaller size spools that will go onto your sewing machine. They're not all jumbo spools. You're welcome, Cindy. She said she did download the retreat checklist. They're picking on the quilting meringue in the comment section. They want him to do a video on the New York beauty, and they're actually laughing at him. Treat him so bad. Eric is in the house. He says, "Hey, how are you?" And he wants to know, has anyone tried Wonderfield thread? Is that the invisible thread? I don't know what that is. Wanda is asking me, she's putting me, throwing me under the bus, literally. She's asking me if I finished the mystery quilt. I have done the blocks. I put my energy into finishing the piecing on my apple core quilt, which I actually did, and now I actually want to put a border around it. So I'm just a glutton for punishment. But it took me probably 3 weeks of sewing to get the last part of that apple core completed. And then my next goal was to finish the Bonnie Hunter quilt top on Ringo Lake. I did work on it at retreat this past weekend. I have the top piece, it was pieced on a diagonal with a setting sashing. It had sashing that had piecing. And so you had all of these pieces that needed to be lined up or that you were sewing over. So it was pretty bulky sewing. So it just took a while, but I got the piecing done on that. I want to personally add a border. I haven't done that yet. So that's my next step is to add a border. So I had to really look at what I want to get done, and then I had to work on those particular projects. I do have all of the blocks done. I think I know how I want to set it. I'm still kind of looking at ideas to see if I change my mind. But my next set of things that I probably will start doing is get back into some quilting because I need to get this project completed. I don't know if you remember, in July or August, I told you that my small quilting deal, we were working on UFOs. We had a year and about 4 months maybe to complete at least 10 UFOs. I think I've only finished one. I have a list of 20, and I need to start getting those done. So I will start working on those once I get through with the on Ringo Lake quilt. I also want to quilt like the Pat Sloan Solstice quilt that I called the Heartbeat Sampler. I want to quilt that too. So I got quite a few things that I would like to get quilted. So someone is saying that they love Wonderfield thread. That's Diane. I don't know what that is, so I have to look that up. And Eric Oda is saying, New York Beauty, you talking to me? I don't know what's going on there. I must have missed something. And Cindy is giving Darlene advice to check your local quilt shops for bus trips, shop hops, even if you don't have a guild. I went on an overnight bus trip, and that was so much fun. Lots of shopping. I know one of our quilt shops will schedule bus rides to and from Paducah. So if you don't have any way to go, that's also a great way to go. even if you go by yourself, there's times that I couldn't get anybody scheduled to match up with mine to go to the Paducah show, and I just go by myself. When you go to the Lord shows, it's so many quilters. Everyone is friendly, so if you just want to chat with somebody, you can sit and chat with somebody. There are no strangers at the quilt show. Eric saying, I have so many problems with Wonderfield thread on my long arm. Anyone else have problems with it? So that's a line that I know absolutely nothing about. And I think part of that is because I'm not actively looking to change my threads because they weren't fine for me. I have heard people say that threads are great also. And I said that I was going to actually check into that because it's a very reasonable price on that thread. We're about 1 minute over 8, but we're still chatting. So I'm going to go ahead and go. So we'll go to like 8:15 maybe. Let's see. I can't wait to try New York Beauty Quilt since I'm from the concrete jungle, originally from Harlem. That is definitely on my list this year. And some Tricia is saying that she's never tried it. It's for the Wonderfield thread, but I do know Wonderfield makes the new Innova thread that just came out. I have not tried it. HC says, geez, now I got to try this beauty quilt. Okay. So I think we're getting to the bottom. Eric is saying that Wonderfield is a Canadian thread company that has similar threads to Superior Threads. They make different lines, one of which I know is called Tutti Frutti. Sharice is saying sometimes I feel a little intimidated at retreats because they are so good and some are so critical, even though they mask it by offering to help. So I will not go to a retreat anytime soon. And I just think that that is that particular group of people because if I have a beginner come to a retreat and if I feel like they're approachable, then I will like assist them because I want to make sure that their next quilt gets better. So I won't necessarily let you sit there and do something the hard way, or if I see somebody cutting where it's either cumbersome, dangerous, or anything like that, I'll offer my assistance. And I will say, if you don't want it, that's fine too. But it just depends on the people that you're with. Because I'm with the quilters in the St. Louis area, we tend to help other people because we want more people involved. We want younger people involved. And so I'm really into education and training. I feel like if anybody asked the majority of the members in our guild for some help, I feel like they would get it. So I think it's just that. And sorry that you are experiencing that. So if you ever have any questions, you're more than welcome to pop them into any video of mine. I'll try to help you as best I can online. Darlene says another topic, designing your own quilts. I'll write it down. I'm always talking about how you can adapt quilt patterns by changing sizes and things like that. So that's like the next step is to just do your own quilt top. Uh, Debbie is asking when we going. I think she's talking about the Paducah trip, the Friday Paducah. Debbie going on Friday. And she's saying that the essential threads from Connecting Threads is wonderful. And Eric is asking us if anyone is planning to attend Houston this year. I would like to go to Houston this year. Have I tried to find me a place to stay? No, I need to get me a hotel, and I have keep putting other things ahead. I'm actually working on the retreat for that I'm setting up to go to Missouri Star. So I have that now confirmed. So now I will start working on the actual agendas for that. But I would like to go to the Houston Quilt Show. I always have a blast at the Houston Quilt Show. I've only been once, but I would love to go back. You're welcome, Trisha. Have fun. We're going to be signing off in a bit. Vicky says, are there certain vendors you look for at AQS Paducah Show? I always like to shop at the fabric place next to the Quilt Museum. Lots of $5 fabric. I think I have been in there as well. I don't know if it's by the Quilt Museum. I've shopped at a couple of places that have had fabric and off buildings off of the actual quilt show place. And I don't remember the names of them, of course, but I do some shopping outside. For me, the vendors is when I look at the vendor list, I might look at the vendor list of something that I use, like thread, or something that gets used, like needles, or if I'm needing new scissors. So it just depends on what the topic is. If I'm looking for, like when I was looking for long arms, the main vendors that I hear were the long arm vendors. I tested out every long arm machine before I decided to purchase one. So if I'm looking for a new travel table, then I would look at anybody that might have a travel table. So it just depends on my goal. Most of the time, I just go and I'm looking. I like to go to the AQS book room. They have a room in the building. I don't know what the name of the street is. I'm just going places, but I go there because they have books always under $5. So I tend to go there and look to see if there's any books. Now it's a chore sometimes. Sometimes when it's busy, you're gonna get bumped a little bit because people are trying to go up and down these narrow aisles. So, but it just depends on my goal, what I'm looking for, and I haven't even decided yet for this year. Um, let's see. Diane says her Janome 8900 likes connecting threads. And I think that's something that we all need to try. Debbie is saying she's packed. You're packed for what? Are you packed for Paducah? I'm just going for one day, coming back. Are you packing for Houston? I got to find a hotel room. Oh, really? You did? And Eric is saying that he did an Airbnb and he had so much fun. Eric, we need to talk. You need to contact me through my TeaQuilts address. And I am serious. I will get me a flight. I will meet you in Houston. Benita says, so what is this retreat you're setting up in Missouri Star? I actually did a video a while back where I was trying to get 30 quilters because it's a new quilting retreat center in town. But that did not happen. All that I ended up with was 7 quilters. I still have one spot open. The cost is $350 for lodging and the sewing area. And I had to go down to a different place because I did not have the 30 quilters. So since I only have 7, I'm renting out a place called Quilters Paradise. And it's about 4 miles from town, but we still have quick access to town. But I wanted to be in town, but that didn't work out. So we're doing that. We're going to go from September 11, which is a Tuesday, and leaving on Sunday the 16th. So that's actually 5 nights. It's not really a bad price, 5 nights to stay with a place to sew, and your breakfast is included. And I haven't done any more details on that. I probably will do some form of a lecture. I'm not sure which one or how much I'm going to bring because I may end up having a friend with me and she's going to take space in my car. But I'm planning it. If you're interested, I still have a spot for one other person. The $175 deposit, though, is due on that right away. I've already paid the deposit for the place, so I would like to retrieve my funds back from that. But otherwise, that's all I have for right now. I do have one person coming from California, one from Alabama, two people from Cleveland, Ohio, and then the other three are local St. Louis area quilters. Um, I'm trying to get the last questions. I like connecting threads. Thread two. Has anybody tried the Missouri Store Quilt Company thread? I have not tried it. Darlene is saying great session tonight. I like that we all like to share and help each other. You're more than welcome. And that's what I want these chats to be about. If somebody has a question that I don't particularly know the answer to, that someone would chime in and help them. So I appreciate you all doing that. I can't believe it's been an hour already. It does go by pretty fast. And Diane is saying she would love to go to the Missouri Quilt Retreat. Again, I was telling Eric, I was just about to tell my email address. It's the same thing as my YouTube channel name. It's TeaQuilts at TeaQuilts.com. If you're interested in that, let me know. I can send you a registration form. I also have that information already uploaded to my TeaQuilts Facebook group. It may not be updated with the new facility place, but all the pricing is still the same. And Wanda is saying she would like to go too. Uh-oh, Diane. HC is saying you all are not doing thumbs up. So if you would please go ahead and thumbs up this video, I really would appreciate it. I think I was talking about that last time where Facebook is, if you don't get 4,000 views within a certain period of time, then your channel is in jeopardy. So just having the likes and views, comments does help with that. They're looking for people that have higher traffic. And so some of the smaller channels are having difficulty staying on. And I will still stay on whether they pay me $100 a month or not. I will still be here for you all just because it's what I do. But it is nice to actually get some fun so that I can go buy things that I can do reviews on or do some product, because when I do hauls, that's where I use the money from that for hauls. Wish I would. Somebody say wish they were closer. Would love to come. Liz says hello. T just tuned in from New Orleans. Hi Liz. We are almost done with this live session. We were supposed to end at 8. It is almost 8:15, so we're just about to log off. Sorry you missed it, but you can go back and most definitely watch the chat once it renders. And HC is saying, if I lived in Illinois, I'd so be there with you. My sister and I are going to Missouri Star in April, our first visit. We are so excited. That's from Linda Niles. You are going to have a great time. Liz, okay, they're just talking to each other. Okay. And Eric says he did thumbs up. In the Quilting Marine, he's confirming what I said about I'm going to stay on YouTube regardless. He says, I agree. It's all about teaching. That's the reward for me. And that's why I'm here. That's what brought me here was questions from people asking me questions at my lectures. And I kept getting the same questions over and over again. What type of sewing machines do I have? How do I know I'm sewing quarter-inch seam? You know, various different things. What type of spray starch do I use? So I start making videos about those other things. And when they ask me about them, I hand them a business card and I tell them, you know, you got a very in-depth video explaining all of this to you. So that's why I like YouTube. So it doesn't look like I have any other questions. I am going to go ahead and end our session here. I do appreciate your time that you come and spend with me on Wednesdays. And if you have any suggestions for topics, please let me know. So far, I have Judging Quilts, which we're going to wait until the end of March for that. The New York Beauty, which I'm doing next week. I am designing your own quilt. So I do have those three down, and we will talk about those in the future. So good night, everybody. And I see a lot of good nights. And thanks, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast, but I will be seeing your final comments. So go ahead and put them in. I will see them. Bye bye, everybody.